Chick-fil-A is a fast food restaurant chain that started in 1946. Thank you for your suggestions.
Just moments ago, a grand opening at a local restaurant quickly came to a halt. Now, apparently, the 300-pound circus burger sign was tipped over where it came to rest on a parked car below. Now, if you look up there on the roof, you'll see where the massive burger was anchored. No one was injured, although the owner of the car was shaken up. Now, I'm told there are no suspects at this time, though investigators do think foul play was involved. For Live Witness News, I'm David Carpetian. Katie?
Two brothers, Truett and Ben Cathy, fresh from serving in World War II, came home to start their future. Ben had seen combat in the European theater, and his brother Truett had relatively easy duty as a clerk and never went further from home than Fort Lewis, Washington. Truett was discharged in 1944, and when Ben came home, the two brothers began to plan their future. They decided they would start a restaurant, and after spending some time as employees of a woman who promised to set them up in a business but never did, they opened the Dwarf Grill. The Cathy brothers had begun the enterprise with $4,000 they were able to raise, partly by selling Truett's car, combined with $6,600 on loan from a bank, and for their money they had a restaurant only 50 feet wide and 150 feet deep, including the kitchen, that had 10 stools and 4 tables. On May 23, 1946, 25-year-old Truett Cathy and his younger brother Ben opened a restaurant called the Dwarf Grill at 461 South Central Avenue in Hapeville, Georgia. They started small with the Dwarf Grill, later renamed the Dwarf House, so named because of its small size and the 7 dwarfs decor. Besides problems of supply, the Cathys had to deal with bureaucracy and other foibles, and they ended their first day with sales of $58.20, a modest beginning, but a beginning still. Most of their patronage came from employees of the nearby Ford plant, as well as from the emerging Atlanta airport next to Hapesville, and many of these seemed to be repeat customers. For several years, the brothers worked alternating 12-hour shifts to staff the 24-hour restaurant. That is, until tragedy took Ben Cathy and a second brother and left Truett Cathy as a solopreneur. One Saturday in 1949, Ben Cathy left the restaurant and met up with his brother Horace. Both brothers were licensed pilots, so it wasn't a big deal for them to fly a small plane to Chattanooga, Tennessee. Sadly, they never made it to their destination. Their plane crashed near Dalton, Georgia, and in the space of a day, Truett Cathy lost 2 brothers. He soon purchased Ben's share of the business, and his wife, Jeanette, joined him there, doing everything from waiting tables to running the cash register. When the Cathy children were old enough to work, they joined their parents at the restaurant. Another key element of the Chick-fil-A corporate identity was forged in those early days. The policy of operating 6 days a week, but never on Sunday. The Dwarf House, in fact, was open 24 hours a day, but closed from midnight on Saturday night to midnight on Sunday night. And in more than 5 decades, the policy hasn't changed. 2 years later, in 1951, they opened a second Dwarf House restaurant in Forest Park, Georgia. Cathy developed what would become the original Chick-fil-A fried chicken sandwich. For the next 9 years, Cathy prospered as he and his wife, Jeanette, raised their family, and then in 1960, another tragedy came when fire destroyed the Forest Park restaurant. Cathy had become aware of the idea of fast food restaurants, which he judged to be the coming wave in food service. So, with $90,000 in borrowed capital, he opened a new restaurant in Forest Park based on the concept of those Lil Abner restaurants in Chicago. It seemed like the right idea, but soon he discovered that customers preferred the Dwarf House to his new idea.
Okay, hold on. I like a good story as much as the next person, but what in the hell does this have to do with where Scott Lang is?
I'm getting there.
You put a dime in him, you gotta let the whole song play out.
He'd like human jukebox.
Yeah, we're 4 minutes and 55 seconds in, and so far we haven't heard anything about Chick-fil-A. Well, be patient, and it'll be coming next. In the kitchen, Kathy began experimenting with different ways to cook and serve poultry quickly and economically. He started with a breast fillet and began serving it fried on a bun, which eliminated the problem for customers. This was the prototypical Chick-fil-A sandwich, and Kathy began to perfect it with different cooking methods. Eventually, he settled on a pressure cooker with peanut oil and different spices and seasonings, including the addition of a pickle to the sandwich, which would become a lasting part of the Chick-fil-A formula. But they were not yet called Chick-fil-A sandwiches, they were just chicken sandwiches, which rapidly began to outsell hamburgers on the Dwarf House menu. In 1963, Kathy decided to give them a name in order to market the product. A patent attorney had advised him that he could use ordinary words for his product name as long as he misspelled or in some way altered the terms from their dictionary usage. Working with the words chicken and fillet, Kathy came up with Chick-fil-A, making the use of A to convey the concept of being the first or best. He hired the Richard Hyman Company to create the logo that Chick-fil-A still uses. And in 1964, he incorporated the company. At first, Chick-fil-A sold its product to other restaurants during the mid-1960s, but Kathy was worried that a large chain would take his idea, change it slightly, and make it their own. Decided to move from selling licensed products to operating Chick-fil-A restaurants. In 1967, the first of these opened in the Greenbrier Mall, south of Atlanta.
Finally!
And here we go.
As malls grew, so did Chick-fil-A. By 1971, it had 7 restaurants in Georgia and the Carolinas, and within 3 years, it would triple that number. But before the explosive growth of 1971 to 1974, several key aspects of Chick-fil-A's corporate philosophy would develop. Kathy articulated 4 basic tenets. 1. The company would grow not by selling franchises, but by forming joint ventures with independent operators. 2. They would operate exclusively out of the shopping malls. Number 3, financing would come not through debt, but primarily from the company's own profits. And people, number 4, would be the primary focus of Chick-fil-A. With the exception of number 2, which had to be adjusted as shopping malls became saturated with restaurants in the 1980s, a hallmark of Kathy's foresight, these tenets have remained in effect ever since. Chick-fil-A's operator agreement and its emphasis on people are both highly unusual. As the company plans a new location, instead of looking for franchisees, Chick-fil-A conducts a search for a highly responsible person, often from within the organization, to become an operator. That person invests only $5,000, a token sum compared to a typical investment of a franchisee, which can easily be $250,000, to sublease the restaurant. After 6 weeks of paid training, the operator is in business with a guaranteed salary of $30,000 a year, plus half of the net profits after 15% of gross sales goes to Chick-fil-A Inc. An operator can earn a 6-figure income, and operators are highly motivated to make their restaurants profitable. With its strong personnel and its distinctive product, Chick-fil-A grew rapidly in the 1970s alongside the shopping malls in which its restaurants were located. In 1982, as Kathy recalled in his Newcomen speech, the company fell victim to its own success. Other restaurant chains, impressed by Chick-fil-A, began marketing their own Chick-fil-A sandwiches. To counter their competition, Chick-fil-A put coupons in newspapers throughout the country, and the response rate turned out to be twice as much as they expected, thus leading to heavy losses. Previously reliant mostly on word of mouth, Chick-fil-A in 1982 began to focus on advertising, first with an abortive coupon campaign, and then with a successful slogan aimed at reminding the public who created the first chicken fillet sandwich, first and best. In 1983, the iconic Chick-fil-A sauce was invented at the Spotsylvania Town Center Chick-fil-A location in Fredericksburg, Virginia. 3 years later, in 1985, Chick-fil-A introduced its Dwarf House line, named after the original restaurant, which offered customers a choice of sit-down, family dining, or carry-out. In 1986, Chick-fil-A first ventured outside of the malls, and as the number of freestanding restaurants grew, in 1993, Chick-fil-A opened its 500th restaurant, and in 1996, it celebrated its 50th anniversary of the original Dwarf House. It introduced Truett's Grill as a 50s-style diner. The Eat More Chicken advertising campaign launched in 1997, which became enormously successful. Chick-fil-A entered the new millennium on solid ground. Indeed, company sales surpassed $1 billion in 2000. In 2001, the 1,000th Chick-fil-A location opened its doors in Georgia. At this time, expansion remained a large part of the company's strategy. Eyeing the western United States as a lucrative growth region, Chick-fil-A opened restaurants in Utah and Arizona in 2003, and also set plans in motion to open 4 freestanding restaurants in Southern California. In 2004, 8 additional restaurants opened in California, and 2 were established in Arizona. In 2004, the company began offering a new breakfast menu that included the Chick-fil-A Chicken Minis, chicken or sausage breakfast burritos, and a chicken, egg, and cheese bagel. In 2006, 4 flavors of the hand-spun milkshakes were added to the menu and became one of the most popular new menu additions in company history. In 2006, the company opened 73 new locations. Chick-fil-A planned to open additional 90 restaurants in 2007, with much of the growth stemming from operations in California and Arizona. In 2008, Chick-fil-A was among the first fast food restaurants to become completely free of trans fats. In 2012, the company found itself embroiled in controversies over comments and religious viewpoints made by the Cathy families about same-sex marriage. It would lead to boycotts and sharp criticism towards the company. On September 8, 2014, founder Truett Cathy passed away. In October of 2015, the company opened its largest restaurant, a 3-story, 5,000 square foot restaurant in Manhattan. On December 17, 2017, Chick-fil-A broke their tradition and opened on a Sunday to prepare meals for passengers left stranded during a power outage at the Atlanta Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport. On February 13, 2023, they began offering their first non-meat sandwich, a breaded cauliflower sandwich. In May of 2023, Chick-fil-A closed its first standalone restaurant in the Greenbrier Mall without stating a reason. In March of 2024, Chick-fil-A announced it would depart from the company's previous commitment of using only antibiotic-free chicken. Today, there are 3,059 Chick-fil-A restaurants in the United States as of January of 2024 in 48 states, Washington, D.C., Puerto Rico, and Canada. So what do you remember about this place? Leave a comment or a suggestion for a future video below. And if you haven't already, hit that like button and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching.
Bringing back memories from the good old days. That's super cool, man.